Welcome to the Imperial Truth. I'm your host, Eric, and today is kind of a crappy day for those of us who have been in the hobby for a long time. I think we've all seen that this was coming. We knew that this was going to happen eventually, but I'm still kind of surprised that it happened. Uh, yeah, so let's talk about the big news. And I'm going to offer a few solutions to those of you who might be feeling a little bit left out or abandoned in this moment. So bear with me as we go through this. So we have big Space Marine news here on the screen. We can look through here. There's a number of things that are happening, and they kind of begin it with something that I do want to touch on before we move on to the real big news. And that is that Space Marines are going to be the toughness 5. Now, if you are new to the channel, I do a lot of Horus Heresy content, and we did a video a little while ago where we talked about whether or not Space Marines in Horus Heresy were less durable than Space Marines in 40K in 10th edition at that point. And it turns out that the Space Marines in Horus Heresy are considerably more durable than the ones in 40K because of the bloat that exists there in terms of the strength bloat and the damage bloat and all the stuff that's happening. And this is more of that bloat. So from a game designer perspective, this is a really bad thing. The need to continually sort of inflate toughnesses and wounds and damage and all that stuff. And if we look at it, if we compare 40K to Horus Heresy, we can see that this is the systems that are pretty similar. It turns out that they're actually it's not doing anything. It's just making the game harder to play. Tracking wounds on your Space Marines doesn't actually make them more durable. And so then it just makes the game last longer. It just makes the game harder to play. It gives you more bookkeeping. It is bad design. It is quintessential bad game design. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. What we're here to talk about today is the announcement that all the Firstborn stuff is going to Legends, and this sucks. This sucks. I don't have any Firstborn Space Marines for 40K anymore. I haven't played 40K in a long time, but I do think that this stinks. This stinks because you lose the army that you've played. It is invalidated. And that is never a good place to be. It's never something that feels good. And I just want, if you're like frustrated in this moment, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that that's where we're at. And I'm sorry that they made this decision. I have a video planned in the future about Games Workshop being a corporation. And I think that will be informative to this topic as well. We'll kind of come back and revisit it. But for today, let's focus on the fact that, unfortunately, the things that you have that can't be played, that sucks. I'm laughing because I just noticed that the suppressor squad is now also on that list. I have a suppressor squad because I have that original box that I had bought as a combat patrol that I was going to use that I just never got around to using. And it's just funny to me whenever they invalidate things that are only a few years old. That's really crappy. That's really bad. So we lose our tactical squads. We lose our devastator squads. We pretty much knew that was going to happen. We lose our centurions. Honestly, I don't know why Centurions are in the game, but nevertheless, they're out as well. Razorbacks, Predator Destroyers, Predator Annihilators, Vindicators, Whirlwinds, all the Storm Talon, Storm Raven, those things are all out. The Hammerfall Bunker is not surprising that it is out as well. But yeah, so you're probably feeling pretty frustrated as a player right now if you are watching this and you have these models. And so I just want to offer you some solutions to this. The first solution is just to continue to play old editions. I am currently building a sort of 4th edition-ish Catachan Jungle Fighter army, and gonna be playing 4th edition with that as I get it painted up. You can play previous editions. All the books are available. The game is solved. You do have no more updates. Nobody's going to invalidate your stuff. There's a pretty strong second edition 40K a group as well, that the kind of the old Hammer group that happens online. I know that there are people that just played all sorts of previous editions. You can just do that. So you have that power. And in addition, with your old models, you can go back and do campaigns where you play things that happened before there were Primaris, and play a version of the game where you're like, there are no Primaris here. It's only the Firstborn. And you are allowed to do that because they are your toys, and you get to do what you want with your models. The second thing I want to do, offer to all of you who might be frustrated, is that Horus Heresy is a game. And Horus Heresy only has Firstborn. And yes, your specific tactical squad armor is not technically exactly what should be present in the Horus Heresy. But most Horus Heresy players aren't going to care. They're going to be happy for you to play and participate. And a lot of the things do convert over pretty well. The Predators will convert over more or less. The turrets are going to be a little off, but that's fine. The Razorbacks, unfortunately, don't work in Horus Heresy, and neither do the Centurions. But you can, you could talk to your opponent about what you can do there, or turn your Razorbacks into Rhinos or something like that. The Centurions, I'm not sure what to do with. You could proxy them for Saturnine, though. I would be fine with that. So your Vindicator, your Whirlwind, your Land Raiders, your Rhinos, those all can go into Horus Heresy. Your Tactical Marines, depending on how you have them loaded out, could be veteran tactical squads because they can take a very similar loadout in that case. The Devastator squads, I don't know if I imagine the veteran heavy support. I don't play Legiones Astartes, so I'm doing a little bit of this off the cuff. If somebody's familiar with that and they can put it in the comments, let me know. I'm guessing there's a veteran heavy support squad that can basically be your Devastators. So you could run pretty much all your Firstborn stuff in Horus Heresy. And honestly, if you don't mind popping things off of your models, replacing the shoulder pads and replacing the backpacks is probably enough to pass as Horus Heresy models in most cases. If you want to do modifications, but I wouldn't be upset if anybody wanted to be like, I'd like to try this out and play their Firstborn stuff in Horus Heresy. I do also want to point out something about Horus Heresy that is pretty cool, and I'm going to jump over here to other tabs to show you. So this is the Veteran Intercessor Squad. I couldn't find the Intercessor Squad listed, but I'm guessing it's the same price. And in Games Workshop money, that's $65, 65 US dollars for 10 models. So just keep that in mind as we go forward. And we have our Assault Jump Intercessors with jump packs that are $60 for 5 models, which seems pretty expensive. And even your tactical squad that was available is $60 for 10 models, right? So those are the prices for the 40K stuff. If we pop over here to the Horus Heresy stuff, which, by the way, I think Horus Heresy Firstborn Marines look a lot better than the kind of older kits. And even I don't like the Primaris stuff, so that's me. But if we come down here, we can see that for $73, so for $13 more than your jump assault intercessors, you can get a Mark IV assault intercessor squad. That's 10 models, so twice the models for $13 more. That seems pretty good. The tactical squad is $90 for 20 models, as opposed to $65 for 10 models, or even $60 for 10 tactical squad guys for 40K. And you get these really cool characters that you can have and use. They've got all sorts of, the combat patrols are really good deals. Both of these are pretty good deals in terms of the models that you get and the amount of things that you are using for them. And the game is much more narrative. If you own Firstborn, you've probably played the game for a while, and so you're familiar with like 4th edition and 7th edition and things like that, and vehicle facings and scattered dice and templates and things like that. All of that is in this game. The game is very centered around Space Marines. It's very Space Marine and Space Marine. So if you want your Space Marines to feel like Space Marines, feel like big, stompy, angry guys that are really hard to kill, go into this game. I predominantly play Mechanicum, exclusively play Mechanicum. And while third edition is much more balanced than second edition was, it is still difficult as a Mechanicum player to beat Space Marines, because they're the poster child of this edition and in this version of the game. So yeah, it is a fun game to play. If you are looking to get into the game, Zone Mortalis is a really fun way to play. And then you don't need to like swap a lot of your stuff over. So you could just build a Zone Mortalis list that's like 1,500 points, and play smaller sized games for a while until you sort of get your head around the game. The core rules of Zone Mortalis more or less translate perfectly into the larger game. And then you can get into larger games with people. And if you want to convert or move some of your stuff over to the Horus Heresy line, you certainly can, and whatnot. But you also have the opportunity to continue to play with what you have. The other advantage of this is I think everything, I have a filter on right now that only lets me see the plastic stuff. I feel like for most of the plastic stuff in the Horus Heresy line, you're pretty safe. They're not going to invalidate your purchases. They're not going to tell you that you can't use those things anymore. But you know, some of the resin stuff I would be a little bit more hesitant on. So if you are really into the stuff, just be careful when you're getting the resin stuff that, you know, those things might go away or might not be translated into a new edition of the game. But yeah, there's a lot of options here. There's different armors of marks of armor. There's a lot of opportunity for conversion work. I could see people kit bashing the new Red Corsairs models into these to play like Black Shields. You can check out some rules online to play Shattered Legions or Black Shields. You can translate everything over. The only thing that might be an issue is if you're like playing like Crimson Fists, for example, they might not translate well because of you know, they don't exist in this. However, I will point out that I think again, if you are an Astartes player, you can correct me. I'm pretty sure there are some examples of the second founding guys showing up. So for example, the Imperial Fists have Templars, and the Templar Brethren are in black armor. Although Sigismund, their model isn't. So you could have Black Templars to some level. You could have the Nova Marines are second founding chapter. And I believe at this point, the Nova Marine color scheme is already in place for them. So there is, you know, if you do a little bit of research, there probably is something that'll work. And you know, again, if you wanted to come to me and be like, hey, listen, I have all these tanks and all these guys and I want to play, I would definitely let you play at my table and invite you in. And, you know, at some point, maybe in the future, there would be some expectation that, you know, maybe your Crimson Fists get painted a different color, or, you know, maybe those Mark 7, you know, armors maybe get moved around a little bit, maybe swap some shoulder pads and kind of make them into a sort of a late Heresy army. But you can play with that. You can have some fun with it. But that's it for today. Just a real quick video to just be like, hey, listen, you are welcome in our community. If you are frustrated, and just to validate that people out there might be really upset about this. I get it, that it is frustrating. And I just want to offer you guys that invitation that if you are out there and you want to play in the Horus Heresy community on behalf of a decent, you know, community of people who are on our Discord and participate in the hobby, yeah, come to the dark side. We have Firstborn, and we'd be happy to have you here. So with that said, have a great day, and see you later.